My son-in-law thought I was just a clueless old man, sneaking into my room thinking I was fast asleep, searching for valuables. One night, he was rummaging through my drawer for the safe keys, and his face went from ghostly to a sickly shade of yellow. Whatever he saw in there, it changed everything. I just smiled in the dark. I was about to take a bite when Charlie interrupted our dinner chat. "Hey, David, about that safe upstairs. What kind of lock do you have?" Lauren nearly spat out her water, laughing. "Charlie, what a question to ask." But Charlie kept staring at me as if he was on a hunt, making my chest tighten. I slowly set my fork down to buy some time. He grinned. "Just curious about home security, with all the recent break-ins." I squinted at him. "There weren't any break-ins around here. I've lived in this neighborhood for 15 years, and gossip peaks when Mrs. Henderson's cat gets stuck in a tree." Charlie brushed it off. "Oh, maybe you're out of the loop. They're keeping it quiet to avoid panic." He leaned in closer, elbows on my table. "But a man your age living alone must have serious security, right?" Lauren looked worried. "Dad's always kept things secure with locks." "Sure, but what about insurance?" Charlie pressed on. "If anything happened to you, heaven forbid, shouldn't Lauren know where you keep everything?" The room felt more cramped suddenly. I looked at Charlie closely, noticing his pupils grew larger when he talked about me potentially dying, and his fingers drummed impatiently on the table whenever I hesitated to answer. "It's all taken care of," I eventually replied. "Lauren knows all she needs." "But does she know about the key?" His words lingered like smoke. Lauren glanced back and forth, puzzled. "What key?" she asked. Charlie's smile widened. "The one in his drawer." "What? Hold on. How do you even know about the key in my drawer?" My question came out sharper than I meant. For a brief second, Charlie's mask slipped. I caught a glimpse of something calculating before he slipped back into the concerned son-in-law persona. "Last week I had a killer headache and was looking for aspirin," he said casually. "Lauren told me to check your bathroom, but I opened the wrong drawer first. My mistake." Lauren nodded. "I remember. You were really hurting." But I recalled that day too. Charlie spent almost half an hour upstairs, claiming stomach issues, more than enough time to go beyond aspirin hunting. "Aspirin's always in the medicine box," I replied quietly. Charlie's jaw clenched slightly, probably just out of it from the pain. We kept the conversation going, but he kept coming back to the same topics. My bank, who else had keys to the house, my daily routine. Each question felt like a probing finger looking for a weak spot. Once dinner wrapped up, Lauren hopped up, grabbing plates. "I'll take care of these, Dad. You cook tonight." "No worries," I said, already stacking dishes. I needed to stick to my routine today, more than ever, to make sense of everything that happened. "Come on," Charlie urged Lauren, nudging her as he got up. "Let your dad handle it. We could use a rest." They headed upstairs, and I heard their door closing. As I scrubbed the dishes, I replayed every one of his questions, stuff he shouldn't have known. His offhand comment about my demise and Lauren's inheritance. I went through the motions, wash, rinse, dry, while mentally reviewing all the red flags I'd missed over weeks. His shaky job history, his unending questions about my finances, and how he seemed to map out the house with his eyes. As I finished drying the last glass and hung up the towel, pieces of the puzzle began coming together in my mind. The kitchen was spotless under the lights, but deep down, something had shifted tonight. The house didn't feel safer. Instead, it felt more exposed. The muffled voices from upstairs faded into silence. Time to see what other shocks my home held in store for me. As I made my way up the stairs, the first thing to catch my eye was my bedroom door. It was cracked open just enough to let a couple of inches of shadow seep through. Pausing on the top step, I held onto the banister. I'd closed that door before dinner, a habit reinforced by 40 years of solitude, recently broken by my daughter's visit. Lauren and Charlie were staying in the guest room down the hall, so there was no reason for anyone to be in my room. I lingered there for about 30 seconds, straining to hear any sounds. The guest room was silent, and nothing stirred upstairs. Only the usual creaks of the old house and the thudding of my heart filled the silence. I eased the door open, half expecting it to groan, but it swung silently on its well-oiled hinges. Stepping into my personal space felt like walking onto a crime scene. At first glance, everything seemed fine. The bed was neatly made, my reading glasses remained on the nightstand, and the lamp was in its usual spot. But my trained eye spotted small inconsistencies right away. The closet door was slightly open by 4 inches, not fully shut as always. That small gap would have kept me awake all night. The dresser drawers weren't properly aligned. The second one from the top, which housed important documents, wasn't closed all the way. A corner of a manila folder poked out like a yellow tongue, and my stomach twisted in knots. I went over to the dresser, pulling the drawer completely open. The folders inside had been rummaged through, then haphazardly rearranged. Someone had been thorough but careless. Insurance documents mingled with bank statements. My will, which should have been in the last folder, had shifted toward the front, and the small brass key I had taped under the drawer's lip was gone. I checked twice, feeling for the spot where the tape and key used to be, but they had vanished. This key opened my safe, the very one Charlie had so casually brought up during dinner. My hands began to tremble, not out of fear but sheer anger. This wasn't some random break-in. Someone had entered my private world with a mission, specifically knowing what to look for and where. I headed to the safe, a compact but robust model anchored inside my walk-in closet. The digital lock was still active, but it was irrelevant now. Charlie possessed the key for the manual override. There, amidst a lifetime of my possessions, I felt utterly vulnerable. How long had Charlie been plotting this? How many times had he snooped around while Lauren and I were caught up in downstairs activities, eyeing my things as if they were up for grabs? The offense was more than mere theft. It was personal and personal. Someone had rifled through my papers, peered into my financial details, handled things meant only for me. The boundaries I had carefully maintained were invaded. However, Charlie made one huge error. He underestimated my attentiveness, assuming I was just another oblivious old man, too trusting and weary to notice the details. He was mistaken. I carefully closed the dresser drawer, leaving everything as it was. If Charlie thought his actions had gone unnoticed, I needed him to maintain that belief. Let him think his meddling had been missed. Let him carry on with whatever scheme he had in mind. Now it was clear to me. This wasn't some short-term financial fix, but a calculated theft. Someone who had spent weeks studying my habits and vulnerabilities, someone sharing the hall with my daughter. I switched off the bedroom light and got ready for bed, sticking to my usual bedtime routine. But now, every move felt like I was playing out a scene for someone unseen. Was Charlie listening? Did he know I was onto him? Did he find out about my investigation? As I pulled back the sheets, it dawned on me. I would begin unraveling everything tomorrow, but tonight, I'd strategize. I needed to understand fully what I was up against. There was not a chance I'd catch any sleep that night. Lying in bed and staring up at the ceiling, my mind wouldn't stop spinning with all I'd uncovered. Every little sound felt like it was cranked up to 11. The house creaking, the wind brushing through the trees, and the soft hum of the fridge 2 floors below. When the clock hit 11:47 p.m., I heard footsteps coming from downstairs. They weren't Lauren's dainty steps. These were heavier, deliberate ones, Charlie's. I held still, paying attention to my breathing, and listened as he headed toward the front of the house. Through the thin floors of this old place, I could just make out his voice. "Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep," he whispered, assuming no one heard him on his phone call at this odd hour. Quietly, I sat up in bed, trying not to make the mattress squeak, and tiptoed to the heating vent leading from my bedroom to the living room below. Sometimes, Sounds traveled incredibly well through these old vents. The old man's definitely loaded, I heard Charlie say clearly now. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the whole shebang. We're talking serious money here. My heart started pounding. Charlie wasn't doing this alone. Tomorrow night, he continued. Lauren's got her book club. She's out at 7 and back by 9. Perfect timing. With shaky hands, I grabbed my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and hit record. Charlie then said, I've already got the safe key. Nabbed it earlier today during dinner. The old guy keeps all his valuables there. Cash, jewelry, who knows what else. I kept recording as his voice got more excited and sure of himself. Look, I know there's concern about the timeline, but my gambling debts aren't going away. Those guys aren't known for their patience, if you catch my drift. We've got to do this now. Gambling debts. It was all clicking into place. His anxiety, his careful plan, his willingness to betray my daughter. Charlie wasn't any ordinary thief. He was a desperate guy caught in his own mess. David's just some lonely widower, he sneered, probably grateful for the company. He doesn't have a clue. Heck, he asked me about home security over dinner, practically gave me all the info I needed. A wave of anger rolled over me, simmering. Charlie's dismissive attitude, treating me like an easy mark, was hard to swallow. But I stayed quiet, letting the recording roll. The best part? He'll never suspect family. When he notices something's off, Lauren will convince him he just misplaced things. You know how it is with old folks' memories, right? Old folks. At 66, feeling like 96 was far-fetched, and my memory was sharp enough to remember every word of this conversation. By Thursday, we're out. I'll tell Lauren about a job that's popped up out of state. Urgent. We'll hit the road long before he figures it out. There was a pause as Charlie listened to whoever was on the other end, followed by a laugh that sent chills down my spine. Well, maybe he should have been more careful about who he lets in. Life lesson, huh? As the call ended, I heard him moving around downstairs, perhaps checking locks or windows. Soon enough, his footsteps softly headed back upstairs. I stopped the recording, slid my phone under my pillow, and lay still. The bedroom door was slightly ajar from his earlier snooping. I hadn't dared fix it, not wanting him to know I was aware. Through the crack, I saw his shadow pass by in the hallway. The guest room door opened and closed gently. I lay there in the dark for a long while, piecing together everything I'd heard. Charlie was drowning in gambling debts, and dangerous people were involved. He had an accomplice. He was planning to rob me during Lauren's book club tomorrow night and disappear right after, dragging my daughter into whatever mess he'd created. Charlie wasn't just swiping from me. He was using Lauren as a cover, twisting her love and trust for his schemes. But he'd slipped up. He thought I was weak, clueless, a simple target. Little did he know, I'd spent 30 years unraveling schemes as an insurance investigator, and had tangled with plenty of crafty folks trying to game the system. Charlie thought playing games with an old guy would be easy? Well, let's see just how clever he really was. Lying there in the darkness, I listened to Charlie's confession on my phone, and my mind drifted back to where it all began. 3 weeks earlier, Lauren had called in a rush, disrupting my peaceful Tuesday morning. I was sitting with my newspaper, my coffee going cold, when my phone buzzed. Seeing Lauren's name light up always made me smile, but her voice that day was different. Anxiety and fear filled it. "Dad, I know it's early," she said, trying not to cry. "Charlie lost his job last month. We've been trying to manage, but now we're behind on the mortgage." "How far behind?" I asked, reaching for my checkbook. 3 months. "Dad, I hate to ask, but could we maybe stay with you until Charlie finds something new?" She sounded relieved when I agreed. It broke my heart. My baby girl, now 32, too proud to ask for help until she absolutely had to. Of course, she could come home. Of course, I'd help. Something about Charlie's situation didn't add up, though. He'd worked with the same company for 8 years, Lauren mentioned, with good reviews in hand. The layoffs were sudden and out of the blue, but when I pressed Lauren for more information, her answers were vague. Charlie was in charge of their finances, seeking new work, and she trusted him to handle it. I should have asked more questions, looked deeper, but I didn't. 3 days later, they arrived in a U-Haul, packed with way too much stuff for a temporary stay. Lauren hugged me tightly at the door, tears in her eyes, thanking me again and again. But Charlie seemed different, standoffish. His handshake was quick. His eyes had a calculating look as he glanced around the house. "Nice place, David," he commented, strolling through my living room as if he was appraising it. "Must have a good market value these days." Back then, I dismissed it as mere curiosity. Now I realized it was calculation, strategy. In that first week, I worked to make them feel comfortable, clearing out space, adjusting my routines to accommodate 3 people instead of just me. Lauren adapted quickly, already knowing the house well. Charlie, however, was full of questions about the neighborhood watch, which neighbors were home during the day, my banking habits, shopping routines, whether I kept cash at home. Innocent questions to seemingly fit into a new space, but they weren't innocent at all. I remembered him offering to drive me to the bank one day. "Save you a trip?" he joked. "I need to update my address with unemployment anyway." At the bank, he lingered near the teller as I made my deposit, casually asking me about account types and my safety deposit box, signs I ignored because I wanted to trust him, for Lauren's sake. The gambling signs should have been clear too. His phone was constantly buzzing, with calls he took in private, stepping out or into another room. He said they were potential job contacts, networking leads. But I saw his demeanor change after those calls, tense shoulders, restless pacing. Then mail began arriving, financial statements addressed to Charlie, piling up for 2 weeks. Credit card companies, debt collectors. I thought they were merely updating his address after his layoff, but they were last notices, demands, threats. Lauren was in the dark. She placed her trust in Charlie, believed his explanations. So, when he said he was handling their finances, she accepted it. The job market was tough, but he seemed promising. She supported him, unaware of his mounting gambling debts. She was oblivious that their family home was being targeted like prey. This revelation yanked me back to my dim bedroom, the weight of Charlie's recorded confession heavy on my phone. In 12 hours, he meant to steal. In 36, he planned to flee with Lauren, dragging her into his whirlpool of debt and deceit. But he made a significant mistake, underestimating me as just a lonely old man, grateful for company and easily duped. Lonely? No. I remained sharp, observant, with 3 decades of outwitting those who thought they were smart. So Charlie wanted to rob me tonight? All right, let him try. He'd soon discover that some old men still have quite a bite. I woke up at my usual time, 6:30 a.m. The voice memo on my phone felt like a piece of a bad dream, but the timestamp proved otherwise, 12:47 a.m., with Charlie clearly talking about the heist. Heading downstairs, I got the coffee machine going and began my morning routine. Eggs, toast, and orange juice, just like I'd been doing for the last 3 weeks. When Lauren came down in her robe, still yawning and grateful, I gave her a warm smile. "Hey, sweetheart, sleep okay?" "Like a baby," she replied. "Thanks again for letting us crash here, Dad." About 20 minutes later, Charlie appeared, his hair still wet from the shower. He seemed well-rested and confident, like a man with a plan. "Beautiful morning," he remarked as he took his seat. "Got any plans today?" I placed his coffee down cautiously. "Nothing much, maybe run some errands." Charlie's eyes grew slightly more focused. "What kind of errands?" "Just small stuff, maybe the hardware store, maybe the bank." I studied his face carefully. His eye twitched ever so slightly. "No big deal." Charlie leaned in a bit. "The bank, huh? Everything okay with money?" Lauren chuckled. Dad's always been cautious, checking things in person. Old habits die hard. Not worried, I corrected gently. Just being careful. Can't be too cautious these days. Charlie nodded with a bit too much enthusiasm. Totally. There's so much identity theft and online scams out there. It's a jungle, especially for someone your age. There it was again, his patronizing tone hidden behind fake concern. Speaking of being careful, Charlie continued, I was thinking about your home security. The neighborhood seems quiet, but better safe than sorry. It's quite safe, Lauren jumped in. Dad's been here for 15 years without any problems. But Charlie stayed focused on me. Still, a guy living alone with valuables. Good to be cautious. Is that why you have a safe upstairs for important documents? I took a slow sip of coffee before answering. For some things, yes. And what about cash? It's good to have handy in case something happens with the banks. The nerve of him, eating my breakfast while trying to pry into my finances. I have what I need, I said simply. Charlie switched tactics. Last week you mentioned you're a deep sleeper. That's good because I get worried if older folks can't get their rest. I hadn't said that, but I nodded along. Oh yes, I'm out like a light once I hit the bed, especially these days. I've been feeling pretty worn out at night. Normal at your age, Charlie commented. Needing more downtime. Lauren gave him a look. Charlie, that's rude. No, it's fine, I replied quickly. I usually take something to help me sleep through the night. Charlie visibly relaxed. Perfect. Let him think I'd be completely out tonight. Well, you guys should go ahead with your plans, I said, standing up to clear the table. I'll probably turn in early tonight. This family hustle has me more drained than usual. That sounds great, Dad, Lauren said. You deserve a break. Charlie helped carry the dishes, and I noticed him eyeing the stairs, my bedroom, scheming. You know, he said casually, I might stay up late tonight, catch some TV in the living room since I'm kind of a night owl. He certainly was. I just smiled and nodded. Feel free. The remote's right there on the coffee table. After breakfast, Charlie mentioned he needed to make some calls about job prospects. Meanwhile, Lauren wanted to organize their stuff in the guest room. I had my own agenda. I think I'll get started on those errands, I told them. You two enjoy some downtime together. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Charlie watching me from the upstairs window. But it wasn't the guest room window. It was my bedroom window. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. I couldn't wait for tonight. First stop, the hardware store. I needed some supplies, but more importantly, I needed time to think over all the details of what was going to unfold. Charlie had laid out his plan pretty clearly this morning. Tonight, he intended to sneak into my bedroom while I was supposedly in a drugged sleep, find the key he saw weeks ago, and crack open my safe. A neat, tidy little crime against a clueless old man. Except for one thing, the key was gone. I'd moved it early this morning after staying wide awake from the moment I got Charlie's call. Now, the little brass key was snug in my kitchen's junk drawer, buried beneath a bunch of rubber bands and twist ties. Charlie could rummage through my bedroom dresser endlessly without ever finding it. But catching him in the act wasn't enough. I wanted him fully exposed, red-faced and humiliated, so Lauren could see exactly who she married. During a trip to the hardware store, I discovered the perfect tool in the party supply aisle. A small confetti cannon, like the ones used for gender reveal parties. It was spring-loaded and perfect for creating chaos with minimal effort. Alongside, I picked up some ultra-fine glitter, the kind that sticks to everything and seems impossible to remove. Silver and gold, fitting for a wannabe thief like Charlie. When I got back home, the house was empty. A note from Lauren lay on the kitchen counter. Went grocery shopping with Charlie. Back by 2 p.m. Love you. Perfect timing. I had 3 hours. In my basement workshop, I carefully dismantled the confetti cannon. The mechanism was brilliantly simple, a spring-loaded plunger triggered by enough pressure. I replaced the harmless paper confetti with my glitter mix, ensuring it was enough to thoroughly cover but not harm anyone. Calibrating it precisely was challenging. I needed it to activate when Charlie delved into the drawer for the key, not with a casual bump. After a few tests using a wooden spoon, I nailed the sensitivity. Installing the device required precision. I placed the modified cannon in my dresser drawer, setting it to go off when someone reached for the back where the key used to be. At first glance, the drawer seemed normal, filled with old photos, buttons, and other random items. But reach deeper and, surprise. I tested it 3 times, simulating Charlie's actions with a ruler. Each trial worked like a charm, with glitter perfectly aimed at where an intruder's face and hands would be. The device reset smoothly, ready to perform. Then I prepared a fake key, putting it in clear sight at the drawer's front, a luggage key resembling the real one for the hurried eye. Charlie would spot it eagerly, reach for it, and trigger my surprise. The brilliance lay in the psychology. Charlie expected stealth and easy success. Instead, he'd get a glittery clue, just like a dye pack explodes in a robber's face. By 1:45 p.m., everything was set. The drawer looked totally normal. The trap was armed and ready. Charlie would stroll into my bedroom tonight, expecting an easy target. Instead, he'd run into 24-karat justice. I heard car doors slamming outside. Lauren and Charlie were back from shopping, likely feeling calm and unsuspecting. Charlie was clueless that his crime scene had turned into a well-set trap. I quietly closed the dresser drawer and headed downstairs, wearing my best grandfather smile. It seemed like the night was going to get interesting. "I need to run out for another errand," I mentioned casually. Lauren glanced up while unloading groceries, asking, "Need help with anything, Dad?" "Nope, just picking up something at the electronics store. You guys relax. You've done enough shopping for today," I reassured her. Charlie barely looked up from his phone, but I caught a hint of intrigue in his eyes. My little errand seemed to fit right into the routine he expected, signaling him that I'd be out of the house. At Best Buy, a guy named Marcus didn't flinch when I inquired about a security camera for my bedroom. "Is there a problem with break-ins around your place?" he asked. "Sort of," I replied. "I'm after a small wireless camera with solid night vision." Marcus showed me the options, and I picked a compact model that synced with my smartphone, featuring motion detection and 8 hours of battery life. The camera, tiny and magnetic, was easy to set up. Marcus suggested testing its placement, saying, "The app shows exactly what the camera sees in real time." Perfect. I paid cash and drove home with the camera box beside me, feeling like I had the upper hand. When I got back, Charlie and Lauren were lounging in the living room, looking like any regular couple visiting her dad, not at all like thieves plotting a heist. "I'm going to take a break," I said, heading upstairs. All the running around had really drained me. Once in my room, I locked the door and got to work. The camera needed to catch Charlie approaching the dresser, his reaction when he found what was in the drawer, and the sparkly surprise afterward. It had to be perfectly hidden. I tried different spots using my phone app. On top of the bookshelf, the angle was off. Behind the lamp, too noticeable. Finally, tucked between the books on my nightstand, it was perfect, covering both the dresser and the center of the room. The magnetic mount was solid, and the camera's black casing blended right in with the book spines. Unless someone was actively looking for a hidden camera, it was pretty much invisible. I spent 20 minutes tweaking the angle through the app for the best view. The motion detection was set just right to kick in when someone entered the room without going off at random noises. Making sure the battery would last up to 8 to 10 hours was essential. I set it to only activate with motion, saving power. I tested night vision by turning off the lights. The infrared image was perfectly clear, ensuring Charlie's face would be captured when he tripped my trap. I double-checked the sound quality, making sure any sneaky comments Charlie might make would be recorded. Desperate folks tend to talk to themselves, and if he did, I'd catch that too. The setup was simple, yet effective. Charlie would walk into the room expecting peace and darkness, only to be on camera the moment he stepped inside. The camera would catch him searching, finding the fake key, digging into the drawer, and the huge glitter mess that followed, visual, audio, and physical evidence neatly packed together. I rearranged a few more books to hide the camera better and took a step back to look at my work. Everything seemed perfectly normal, just like any old man's room ready for a quiet night. I could hear Lauren and Charlie downstairs, talking softly, likely planning their night. Charlie was probably sizing up how long until he could make his move. Little did he know, his chance had turned into a trap. I checked my phone again. The camera feed was good, recording was on, and the battery was charged. Everything was ready. Tonight, Charlie would show his true colors, and thanks to tech, every bit of it would be caught in high definition. Let the games begin. Dinner was peaceful, with Lauren chatting about neighborhood changes and Charlie frequently checking his phone. I played my role well, a tired grandfather heading to bed early after a hectic day. By 8 we were all in the living room. Lauren was talking and Charlie was on his phone while the plan quietly unfolded. I was all cozy with a book in my usual armchair spot. For added effect, I rubbed my temples. "It's been a long day," I murmured. "I think I'll turn in early tonight." Charlie immediately glanced up from his phone. "Oh, David, I was hoping we could have a drink together. Some father and son-in-law bonding time?" His suggestion was a bit too casual. "That sounds nice," Lauren commented, still focused on her book. "You guys should spend more time together." "I saw a bottle of Macallan in your kitchen," Charlie continued. "Great stuff for a nightcap." I kept a straight face but was a bit curious inside. Charlie must have practiced this talk since breakfast. The timing, the suggestion, specifically mentioning some expensive whiskey. Nothing was by chance. "I appreciate it," I said, "but my meds and alcohol don't mix well." Charlie's smile tightened just a bit. "Come on, just a small glass can't hurt. We're practically family," he pushed. "Really, he should pass," Lauren chimed in. "The doctor was clear about his blood pressure meds." But Charlie wouldn't back down. "How about a quick toast then? A little sip, to celebrate," he faltered, reaching for a toast-worthy reason. "To family?" His pushiness said a lot. A typical person would have dropped it after my first no. But Charlie had a goal, maybe wanting me to sleep extra heavily tonight. "All right, here's the plan," he announced, rising from his seat. "I'll grab myself a drink, and we can just have a chat. No pressure for you to drink if you don't want to." He headed to the kitchen before I had the chance to protest. I heard the sound of cabinet doors opening and glasses clinking. He returned with 2 glasses, one filled with a golden liquid and the other empty. "I changed my mind," he said as he settled onto the couch. "Just poured a tiny bit for a toast, not even a teaspoon." He handed me the second glass. The whiskey seemed harmless enough in the light, but my 3 decades of experience in insurance fraud told me people get reckless when they're desperate. "Charlie, I can't." "Just a small sip," he insisted. "Lauren, tell your dad 1 sip is no big deal." Lauren looked between us, picking up on an undercurrent she couldn't quite identify. "If Dad's saying no, maybe we should just leave it," she suggested. Charlie's jaw tightened, and for just a moment, his polished exterior slipped, giving way to frustration, calculation, and a hint of panic. "You know," I began, carefully getting to my feet, "I think I'm more worn out than I thought. I might just take a sleeping pill and hit the sack." Charlie's attitude changed immediately. "Sleeping pills?" "Yeah, the doctor gave them to me last month. They're strong, knock me out till morning." Relief spread across Charlie's face. "Sounds perfect. You need your rest." "Sweet dreams, Dad," Lauren said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. "See you tomorrow." I took my time heading upstairs, grabbing the handrail like a tired old man. At the top, I paused and turned back. "Don't stay up too late, you two. Charlie, feel free to grab anything you want from the kitchen." "Thanks, David. Sleep well." In my room, I went through my nightly routine, changing clothes, brushing my teeth and turning down the bed, but also double-checked my camera setup and ensured the glitter trap was set to go. I switched off the light and lay there fully dressed, positioned to see the hallway from my slightly open door. The TV murmured downstairs as Charlie and Lauren chatted quietly, eventually leading to Lauren's footsteps heading up. Her door shut at last. Charlie probably made himself comfortable downstairs, watching the clock and waiting for the sleeping pill to supposedly take effect. I checked my phone, 9:47 p.m. The camera showed a clear night vision view of my empty room. The trap was set, the stage was prepared. Now I just had to wait for Charlie to show what he was really up to. Finally, at 2:43 a.m., the stairs began to groan. I had been lying still for hours, watching the hallway through my slightly open door, while my phone updated with a live feed of my empty bedroom, waiting quietly, seeing everything as it happened. Charlie moved like he'd done it a million times, avoiding the noisy spots on the stairs. After living in my place for 3 weeks, he knew its creaks and groans like the back of his hand, noticing anything that might give away his presence. A soft noise came from the floorboard in the hallway outside my room, and then silence. He paused, likely confirming the sleeping pill story did the trick. I kept my breathing steady and deep. This was the performance of my lifetime, with Lauren's future hanging in the balance. The doorknob turned excruciatingly slowly. Charlie's shape appeared in the hallway light. He stood there for a half-minute, confirming I was out cold. Convinced, he stepped into the room. Charlie moved with the confidence of someone who believed he couldn't be detected. Dressed darkly, he melted into the shadows, but I followed his motions by sound and shifting shadows. He headed for my dresser, sure of himself, as if he knew exactly what he was hunting for. His weeks of scouting had revealed what he was after, the key to my safe, storing my security and savings. I watched as he positioned himself in front of the dresser. His hands reached for the second drawer, where my key rested alongside a big surprise waiting for him. The drawer glided open noiselessly, and Charlie had this look of victory on his face. He reached inside confidently, sure that the brass key would solve everything for him. Then, my confetti bomb exploded. Bang! It was like a party popper on steroids, mixing a little bit of cannon with it. Silver and gold glitter shot into the air, raining down all over Charlie and covering him completely. The noise bounced around the house, joyful and loud. Poor Charlie stumbled backward, swearing as the glitter took over him, like an arts and crafts tornado, transforming him into a human disco ball. "What the heck is this?" he gasped, frantically trying to brush off the glitter that clung to him. I played my part, pretending to wake up and sitting up with fake confusion. "What's happening?" I exclaimed, switching on my bedside lamp. The room lit up, revealing Charlie's dazzling new appearance. He stood by the dresser, dripping in glitter and holding the dummy key I'd set as bait. "Charlie?" I faux-carried, looking puzzled. "Why are you in my room?" His mouth did some fish-like movements, opening, closing, and repeating, while glitter fell from his hair. "I heard something," he stumbled. "Thought maybe someone was breaking in." "Breaking in?" I echoed, playing dumb. "And this is why you're all shiny?" Charlie gazed down at himself, realizing the full extent of his altered state. He looked like a jumbled Christmas decoration, with silver and gold glitter refusing to leave him alone. "It was some kind of trap," he muttered. "A trap? In my room?" I pushed, acting innocent as footsteps approached from the hallway. Lauren, awakened by all the ruckus, was heading over to check things out. Charlie's eyes grew wide with panic. How could he possibly explain trying to rob his father-in-law while shimmering like a carnival at this hour? "Dad, are you okay?" Lauren called out, her robe wrapped tight as she looked on with concern. She froze, processing the ridiculous scene, me feigning surprise from the bed, and Charlie sparkling away at the dresser like a living craft session gone wild. "Charlie, what's going on? Why do you look like a holiday ornament?" Lauren asked, a laugh trapped in her surprise. Charlie opened and closed his mouth like an uneasy fish, while each movement released more glitter from his hair, covering the floor with tiny, festive flakes. I heard a noise," he finally said, nerves evident. Lauren's tone sharpened. "Why were you checking on Dad at 3 a.m.?" she demanded, eyeing him incredulously as he stood there, sparkling. "It must be some security system," he quickly rattled off, attempting to brush it off. "It went off as soon as I opened the drawer." Lauren's eyes darted from Charlie to the open drawer, then back at me. "Dad, do you have security devices in your drawers?" I kept my act going, playing the confused old man. "Not that I know of, sweetheart. I was out cold until the noise woke me." "So, Charlie, what were you doing in Dad's drawer?" Now her voice carried a note of suspicion I'd never heard before. Charlie's explanation had more holes than Swiss cheese and was crumbling fast. "I was just trying to grab something to help you sleep. You were tossing a lot, and I thought maybe David had some extra sleep aids." Lauren's eyebrows rose. "In his dresser?" she inquired. Charlie pointed limply at the drawer as more glitter trickled down like fairy dust. "Charlie," I calmly intervened, "all my meds are in the bathroom cabinet." The heavy silence that followed was loaded with unsaid thoughts. Lauren's face changed, going from puzzlement to determination as she surveyed the scene. "So let me get this straight," she began slowly. "You left our bed at 3 a.m., waltzed into my dad's room while he was asleep, and opened his drawer, searching for drugs you knew weren't there." "It's not how it looks," Charlie defended weakly. "Then please, enlighten me." Lauren's voice climbed. "Because from where I stand, it seems like you were poking through my dad's private things at night." Desperation painted across his face as he looked at Lauren. "I just wanted to help," he pleaded. "Help with what?" I chimed in softly. "What did you think you'd find in there?" Charlie glanced nervously between us as the accusation hung in the air. "I was worried someone might be breaking in," he said, trying to hold it together. "Breaking in?" Lauren repeated flatly. "And that led you to start searching drawers?" "I wasn't searching," he insisted. "So what do you call sneaking into the drawer?" she snapped, watching frustration tighten his sparkling fingers into fists. "Why are you giving me the third degree? I'm your husband." The defensive edge in his tone seemed to push Lauren back a step. Her expression shifted as distrust chewed at any remaining faith she had. "Yes, you're my husband," she murmured. "And that's exactly why I need to know what you were doing in my dad's room at 3 a.m., covered in glitter, going through his stuff." Charlie looked trapped, the crazy story he'd concocted backing him into a corner. Glittery proof of his guilt still clung to his clothes. "I can explain," he begged desperately. "Please do," Lauren said, folding her arms, her voice thick with confusion. "I'm really struggling to make sense of what you were up to." As Lauren's expression changed, it was like seeing her instincts switch gears, from protecting Charlie to worrying about me. This wasn't just a mix-up, she realized. It was a threat. Charlie must have felt it too because a hint of panic crept into his voice. "Lauren, please trust me." But once trust gets tangled with glitter and lies, it's hard to repair. Her gaze stayed locked on him, contemplating, analyzing, drawing conclusions she didn't want to accept. "Charlie," she said softly, "come clean now. Why did you go into my dad's room?" As he opened his mouth to speak, I knew it was time for the truth. My daughter needed honesty, even if it would hurt. "Lauren," I began gently, reaching for my phone nearby. "You need to know what's going on." Charlie's face turned even paler. "David, don't—" "Don't what?" Lauren cut in, her tone razor-sharp. "Don't what, Charlie?" I pressed as I scrolled for the recording from the other night on my phone. "Sweetheart," I said, "I captured something important last night." "You need to hear this," I told Lauren. "No," Charlie burst out quickly, trying to interrupt. "Lauren, whatever you're imagining, be quiet." Lauren snapped, her focus entirely on me. "Dad, play it." I hit play, and Charlie's unmistakable voice filled the room, incriminating loud and clear. "Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's definitely got money. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, everything. We're talking big money here." Lauren went shock-still, eyes wide as Charlie detailed my finances to someone else. "Tomorrow night, Lauren's at her book club from 7 to 9 like clockwork. It's the perfect chance." "Stop it," Charlie begged, his desperation palpable. "Lauren, just let me explain." "Shut up." Lauren's voice had turned to ice. "Just shut up and listen." The recording continued. "I already snagged the safe key during dinner. The old guy keeps everything important in there. Cash, jewelry, probably more papers." Lauren covered her mouth, looking at Charlie as if meeting him for the first time. "Look, I know you're worried about time, but my gambling debts aren't disappearing, and those guys aren't the patient type, if you get what I mean." "Gambling debts?" Lauren whispered shakily. "What gambling debts?" The tape played on. "David's just a lonely old widower, probably just enjoys the company. He has no idea what's coming. The best part is, he won't suspect family. Even if he notices, Lauren will just reassure him he misplaced it. You know how old people get about memory." Lauren flinched as though physically hit, hearing how Charlie intended to exploit her trust to deceive her father. "Trust me, by Thursday we'll be gone. I'll tell Lauren I got an urgent job offer in another state. We'll be out before the old guy even realizes." I stopped the recording, and the silence felt suffocating. Lauren stared at Charlie, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Gambling debts?" she whispered. "You plan to rob my dad?" "Lauren, let me explain," Charlie pleaded. "You called him a lonely old man." Lauren's voice broke. "You were going to rob him and leave, using me as your excuse." Charlie tried getting closer, but she backed away like he was a threat. "How much is it?" she insisted. "What's the debt?" "It's not important." "How much?" Defeated, Charlie sighed. 47,000. Lauren felt her legs buckle. She leaned against the doorframe, staring at the man she thought she knew. "You've been lying to me for so long," she grasped. "About losing your job, our money issues, the real reason we moved here. You intended to rob my dad," she yelled, her voice rising. "Using me as your cover while you ruined the person who raised me." "Lauren, we can work it out," Charlie tried once more. "No," Lauren said firmly, newfound determination in her words. "We can't. You schemed to target my dad, insulted him, and planned to trick him into thinking he'd lost his mind. Get out." "Lauren," he pleaded, "leave my father's house right now." For the first time, Charlie was speechless. He stood there for moments longer, glitter still falling from his hair like old snow. But Lauren's fierce, protective anger made it clear their marriage was done. "This isn't over," he said, his voice now harsh. "Half of what we have is mine. I'll get what's mine." "You mean half of our debt?" Lauren replied coolly. "That's all there is, Charlie. Debt. Gambling debt I wasn't aware of. I'll see you in court." "With what money?" she asked, stepping forward, her courage shining brightly. "You confessed to me you owe $47,000 to dangerous people. What will you use against me?" Charlie's confidence shattered. He glared murderously. "This is your fault, old man. You turned her against me." "No," Lauren said calmly. "You did it to yourself when you chose to steal instead of speaking honestly." "You insulted my dad," she continued, "and lied to me for ages." Charlie made a final attempt. "Lauren, we're married. We made vows. You crossed the line threatening to hurt my family." The door was her only reply. "Get your things and go." At that moment, Charlie realized it was all over. No more tricks, no more lies, no pretending to be the victim. Lauren had shown him he'd condemned himself. Without a word, he left, trailing glitter as his last trace. We heard him in the guest room, angrily packing his things. Lauren sank into the chair by my bed, looking drained. "Dad, I'm so sorry," she whispered, tears welling up. "I let him in. I put us at risk." "Sweetheart, you couldn't have known. I should have seen the signs, his calls, his interest in your finances." She looked up, tears close to spilling. "How long did you know?" "Since the night before," I admitted. "I caught a call and knew I had to protect us." Lauren gave a tired smile. The glitter trap was brilliant. "I wanted him caught red-handed." I chuckled, and she laughed despite her tears. Charlie appeared at the doorway with 2 hastily packed bags, still glimmering like a beaten piñata. "Leave your key in the kitchen," Lauren said firmly, not even glancing his way. "No more contact. My lawyer will reach out." Charlie began to argue, but realized it was futile. He walked out, and minutes later, the front door slammed shut. We sat quietly, listening as his car drove away into the night. "Can I stay here for a while?" Lauren asked softly. "Until I get back on my feet." "Of course, sweetie. This will always be your home." Fast forward 3 months, I was making coffee as Lauren came downstairs, dressed for her new library job. She went through her morning routine with the precision I admired. "Morning, Dad." "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well?" "Like a baby." She poured a cup of coffee and sat at the table. "Any regrets about the big glitter scene in March?" I laughed. "Only that I didn't catch his reaction when it happened." 2 weeks ago, Lauren's divorce was finalized. Charlie didn't fight it at all. Hard to claim anything's fair with criminal charges and a $47,000 gambling debt hanging over you. "Busy day at the library?" I asked. "Story time at 10, then you're helping Mrs. Patterson with her genealogy?" Lauren smiled. "It's wonderful. Quiet, peaceful, surrounded by folks who truly love books." She paused at the door. "Thanks, Dad, for being there for me, managing everything so gracefully, and for believing when it mattered most." Once she was gone, I sipped my coffee, taking in the calm that now settled in our home. No stress, no lies, no one plotting to use my generosity against me. My phone chimed with a message from Lauren. "Oh, forgot to tell you, Mrs. Henderson needs your help installing her security system. Seems like your special way of protecting homes is making waves." I chuckled. Maybe it's time I considered patenting the confetti bomb security system. Outside, spring was in full swing in Coeur d'Alene. The neighborhood felt tranquil and safe again, much like it did before Charlie briefly disrupted our lives. Sometimes, justice comes from courtrooms. Other times, it's about trusting your instincts, crafting smart plans, and allowing people to uncover who they truly are. And sometimes, justice gleams,